You are the left, and you were a prisoner to the extreme left. Yep. But you had folks on the left that were introducing some things when we got in the whole transgender issue, and they were talking about bathrooms, or they were talking about males transitioning to females and competing against girls in sports and stuff like that.
That's less than 1% of the population.
I understand that.
All right, everyone, get ready for an exciting story. You won't want to miss this one. Stephen A. Smith, the ESPN legend famous for his bold sports opinions, recently appeared on The View for a no-holds-barred conversation. And, as expected, things got intense. If you're familiar with Stephen A., you know he doesn't hold back, and this time was no different. It was a full-on showdown.
Republicans are sort of an extreme fringe.
Here's the scoop. The discussion kicked off with some heated political talk. Nothing new for The View. But this time, Stephen A. brought a viewpoint that didn't quite match the usual vibe of the show. It didn't take long for him to clash with co-host Sunny Hostin. Sunny is always outspoken, and she figured that Stephen, with his background, would agree with her, especially on how political parties are labeled. She called some groups extreme, but Stephen wasn't having it. He quickly shut down her claim that the Republican Party is a fringe group.
Republicans are sort of an extreme fringe party.
No, I don't think that they're an extreme fringe party. I think that they're operating against those they believe are extreme on the left. Like, for example, when you talk about the LGBTQ community, I'm a fiscal conservative and I'm a social liberal. Mm-hmm. I'm fiscal with my dollars. I ain't apologizing for not wanting to pay high taxes to anybody. I'm not apologizing for that, right? But outside of that, I'm pretty liberal. Live and let live, okay? Mm-hmm. Yeah. But you had folks on the left that were introducing some things when we got in the whole transgender issue, and they were talking about bathrooms, or they were talking about males transitioning to females and competing against girls in sports and stuff like that. These
That's less than 1% of the population.
I understand that.
But you know,
and that moment really set the stage for an epic back and forth. It was like watching a political showdown unfold right before your eyes, and the tension was palpable. Stephen pointed out that oversimplifying such a complex political landscape doesn't help anyone. And honestly, it's time we stop making assumptions just because of someone's background. It's 2025. Time to think bigger.
But I think that's where the mistake is made.
Yeah,
you're saying it's ridiculous. I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
But most of the voters out there don't think like that.
But that means they don't have the information.
Okay, but 90% of the voters don't have the information. If you're out there busting your tail to make ends meet and to pay your bills, and you're going to work every day, and you got a family to take care of, and you're in New York City, you're getting stuck 2 hours of your day, you're stuck in traffic. You understand? You got a whole bunch of stuff to go through. You don't have time to know what you and I know.
Maybe you need to listen to the news when you're in traffic.
Well, again, I agree with that.
Be uninformed.
Or you listen to stuff that's going to take you away from the things that brings down your spirit. Yeah. And that's unfortunately
what made this conversation so interesting was how open Stephen A. was about his own political views. He called himself a fiscal conservative and a social liberal, a combination you don't often hear in mainstream discussions. But when you think about it, it makes sense. He's all about holding on to his money, who isn't, but also believes in the live and let live approach when it comes to social issues. It's a pretty balanced perspective, especially in a time when both sides of politics can be so extreme. But then came the real fireworks. Stephen didn't shy away from the tough topic of transgender athletes in sports. He got straight to the point, calling out the intense debates surrounding the issue and stressing that, at its core, it's about fairness and competition. He made it clear this isn't a small issue. It's impacting how sports are played and how athletes feel about their place in the game.
You are the left. You leaned and you were a prisoner to the extreme left in a lot of people's eyes. Well, guess what? Most of America doesn't operate on the fringes. Whether you're left or you're right, you're relatively centrist. You believe in compromise, negotiation, working with one another. Nobody gets to get everything they want. The problem is those on the fringes continuously push for you to get everything you want. Yeah. They're not about getting, They're not about getting things done. They're about getting their way. And if they're not going to get their way, they're about complaining and griping about it, because they understand that when you are operating based off of grievance, that's usually what provokes you to get to the polls. And that is why they don't mind feeling aggrieved and displaying and disseminating that kind of message, because they know people are going to gravitate to that. And as a result, that might get them to the polls, you thinking you're going to get what you wanted.
Sunny didn't exactly agree, brushing off Stephen's concerns with a dismissive tone, but he wasn't backing down. He reminded her that this issue isn't some small, irrelevant matter. It's something many parents, athletes, and fans are really thinking about. These concerns deserve attention, and just dismissing them doesn't help move the conversation forward. That's when Stephen threw in a curveball. He addressed the usual complaint about uninformed voters. Instead of just echoing the tired line that people don't read enough or pay attention, he flipped the script. He pointed out that, for many people, simply trying to manage work, bills, and family leaves little time to keep up with the constant flood of political news. That's when things got even more interesting. Sunny suggested people could catch up on the news during their daily commute. Sounds like a good idea, right? But Stephen quickly brought them back to reality. It's not that simple. The media landscape is anything but neutral, and just flipping channels doesn't guarantee you're getting the full picture. This is an important point. When you try to get all sides of a story, you have to keep in mind that the truth is often clouded by biases in every corner of the media.
I don't think that they're an extreme fringe party. I think that they're operating against those they believe are extreme on the left. Like, for example, when you talk about the LGBTQ community, I'm a fiscal conservative and I'm a social liberal. I'm fiscal with my dollars. I ain't apologizing for not wanting to pay high taxes to anybody. I'm not apologizing for that, right? But outside of that, I'm pretty liberal. Live and let live, okay? But you had folks on the left that were introducing some things when we got in the whole transgender issue, and they were talking about bathrooms, or they were talking about males transitioning to females and competing against girls in sports and stuff like that. These
That's less than 1% of the population.
I understand that. But
Just when you thought the conversation couldn't get any more interesting, they shifted to discussing Hispanic voting trends. Sunny was puzzled by why so many Latino men voted for Trump, assuming it was all about illegal immigration. But Stephen broke it down. People aren't all the same, and voting patterns are influenced by many different factors, not just one issue. He called out the oversimplification of entire ethnic groups and their voting behaviors, reminding everyone that there's a lot more to it than meets the eye.
However, 55% of Latino men voted for Trump. Why do you think that happened?
Well, I think that economically, they were looking at things. First of all, you've got, in this country, you've got Cubans, Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, Guatemalans, Venezuelans, Colombians, et cetera, et cetera. And if you talk to the Hispanic community, depending on who you're talking to, they think differently. The Cubans think differently than the Dominicans. The Dominicans think different than Colombians. To some, the economy was a priority. To some, believe it or not, it was the border. You had some folks within the Hispanic populace that were encouraging the borders to be closed.
I'm Puerto Rican, right? So the Hispanic community is not a monolith. I agree with you. And a lot of, I think, people that are of Hispanic origin from, let's say, South America or Central America, they're willing to close the door.
Stephen also highlighted that within the Latino community, whether Cuban, Puerto Rican, or Mexican, there are diverse experiences and priorities. It was a powerful reminder that we can't generalize or treat entire groups of people the same way. Each person has their own unique perspective, shaped by their background and experiences. The media loves to simplify things, but Stephen boldly pointed out that this kind of storytelling misses the complexity of real life.
But I think that's where the mistake is made. You're saying it's ridiculous. I don't disagree with you. But most of the voters out there don't think like that.
But that means they don't have the information.
Okay, but 90% of the voters don't have the information. If you're out there busting your tail to make ends meet and to pay your bills, and you're going to work every day, and you got a family to take care of, and you're in New York City, you're getting stuck 2 hours of your day, you're stuck in traffic. You understand? You got a whole bunch of stuff to go through. You don't have time to know what you and I know.
Maybe you need to listen to the news when you're in traffic.
Well, again, I agree with that.
Not be uninformed.
Or you listen to stuff that's going to take you away from the things that brings down your spirit. And that's unfortunately.
Voters are way more savvy than the media often gives them credit for. And in the same breath, he called out the Democratic Party for alienating traditional liberals and centrists with what he called their fringe tendencies. This was a huge moment because it paints a picture of a political landscape where voters are feeling pushed to the margins by extremes on both sides. At the end of the day, Stephen made one thing crystal clear: people vote with their wallets. Gas prices, rent, and mortgages are the real issues on people's minds. And he's absolutely right. Economic realities hit harder than any ideological talking point. That's what drives many voters to the polls.
Is this, and I've said this often. When we look at the economy, I remember when Biden came into the office, he inherited about 1.5% inflation. It ballooned to about 9.1% before it ultimately came down to where it is now, right? That doesn't mean anything to minorities. The percentage of inflation, and here's the percentage. Nah. How much does gas cost? How much does the groceries cost, okay? How much does rent cost? How much does my mortgage cost? That's what folks pay attention to, what's actually in their wallet. I don't know too many minorities that want to trust the system. And so when people speak, although you're right and righteous with your emotion and your righteous indignation, other people are saying we have the right to have righteous indignation when it comes to our pocket, or when it comes to our lifestyle, or when it comes to our environment. If we see crimes in the streets and stuff like that, we see homelessness and it's ballooned, we got a problem with that, and we don't.
On the other hand, Sunny emphasized the importance of keeping citizens informed and engaged to drive meaningful change. She argued that an educated electorate is the foundation of a healthy democracy and the key to creating real impact. It's a balancing act that's easier said than done, and both perspectives hold valuable insights. While it's true that broadening the narrative can offer a more inclusive political conversation, ensuring people are informed is crucial to making sure that broader dialogue is meaningful. So, what do you think? Do you agree with Stephen A's take on widening the narrative to include everyone? Or do you align more with Sunny's view on empowering the public through information? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And hey, if this conversation has you thinking, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you never miss another discussion. See you next time.